For 24 years, I have been a state trooper. I have worked the high roads in the north, and I have worked the low roads in the west. To be a state trooper, you have to be tough. Most of the time, we work by ourselves. The only backup that we have is our gun and our 2 sidearms. Now, I've built my reputation on being tough. Nobody gets a break. Nobody gets away with anything. Nobody. Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, today what I would like you to do is to step into my patrol car. Watch your head. And I want you to relive the day that I met my match. I had just parked my patrol car in the median, strategically parked, some people would say hidden. And I put that radar gun right up on the dashboard and I turned on a little mood music. Bad boys, what you gonna do? Come for you. That very distinguished sound that I've known many times, which means one thing. Here comes a speeder. And boom, right by my face goes a speeding car so fast I couldn't even recognize what it was. I threw my car into drive and I pulled out in a bowl of dust. Hot pursuit, lights and sirens. And that car was so far ahead of me, I had a long drive ahead. And as I'm trying to catch up with that vehicle, I notice that it is side to side, all over the road. And I think to myself, got me a good one. Car takes a long time to stop, and when it stops, I get out. Never be too cautious. So I walk up, and I check the back seat very carefully. Nobody's sitting in the back seat. But I see something suspicious. A large bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. I walk one more step up to the driver's window, and I knock on that driver's window, and that window comes down. And out comes blaring a song, the soundtrack to Mamma Mia. That driver turns down the radio, and I tell that dancing queen, listen here, I need to see your driver's license, your registration, and your proof of insurance. Do you know why I have stopped you? And out comes a voice, a female voice, one that caught me off guard. And as the driver's license comes out to me, and she says, oh, officer, I'm so sorry. I think I was speeding just a little too fast. But do you happen to know my son, Stephen? He's a state trooper just like you. I looked at that driver's license. And I realized that the voice is familiar because, yes, in fact, I had stopped my mother. But nobody's above the law, and I demanded that she get out of the car and come back. And I said, you keep your hands where I can see them. You just never know. And as she came back and I kept my hand at the ready and I looked at her, some people would stop me and say, well, if you can't trust your mother, who can you trust? But I would tell them, you don't know my mother. At my car, I began my interrogation, and I said, ma'am, you were speeding and you're driving all over the road. Have you been drinking and driving? Stephen, don't be ridiculous. You know I haven't had anything to drink since I was pregnant with you. Now, I always questioned her parenting abilities, but now I had proof. Mother, you drank when you were pregnant with me? Stephen, you're always so overdramatic. There's nothing wrong with you. Obviously, I had a few drinks, but there's nothing wrong with you. You're so much better looking and so much smarter than all your brothers. And I realized she did have a point there. That she slipped. Stephen, I'm so glad to see that you're wearing that hat. The sun in Arizona is so intense. And every time I see you, that bald spot gets just a little bit bigger.
Thanks,
Back to my questioning. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. Well, if you're not drinking and driving, explain to me why you're weaving all over the road. Well, Stephen, that's simple. I stopped for that Kentucky Fried Chicken that you saw in the car. And quite frankly, it's very difficult to text and drive and eat hot, greasy fried chicken all at the same time. She thought she had an answer for everything. Well, that explains that. But then explain to me, Mom, why are you driving so fast? Stephen, that's your father's fault. Mom, all my life you've blamed Dad for everything that has ever gone wrong. Explain this to me then. If he's not in the car, don't you think it's time for you to start taking responsibility for your own actions? Stephen, first of all, don't talk to your mother that way. It's very simple. You know your dad's a over-the-road truck driver. And sometimes when he's driving, I like to read stories to him. Whatever book I'm reading at the time, I like to read stories. And quite frankly, he got home a day early and he just wanted me to hurry up and get home so we could pick up the story where we left off last. Mom, what story could you possibly be reading to Dad that would have you violating every single law in the state of Arizona on the highway, on my highway, that you would hurry up and get home to Dad for? What book could that possibly be? Well, Stephen, obviously you're just not going to let this thing go. So I'll tell you. I'm reading 50 Shades of Grey. 24 years in law enforcement, I have seen mayhem. 24 years in law enforcement, I have seen carnage. Nothing prepared me for the day that I experienced that. My mother, knowing full well that I had nothing better to say to her, looks at me and says, "Now, Stephen, am I free to leave?" I had nothing to say. I nodded, tipped my hat, and she walked away without even a warning. But as she waddled up to the car, she opened the door, she turned and she looked at me and said one final thing. "Stephen, any chance I could borrow your handcuffs?"